Today we continue our lesson about the Renaissance, specifically the Italian Renaissance, and we are in lesson 5, section 1.5, Biography, Leonardo da Vinci, pages 332 to 333. Now go to our website, LODA-USD website, and from there launch Clever, and from Clever Cengage Learning, which is the World History Resource online book, and go ahead, log in with your student account with your password. And from the left side, you'll see Unit 5, and from Unit 5, Chapter 12, Section 1, the Italian Renaissance, and Lesson 5, Biography, Leonardo da Vinci, pages 332 to 333. Now, the chapter's essential question is, how did new ways of thinking transform European culture? And the objective of this lesson is to discuss the accomplishments of Leonardo da Vinci in the arts and other fields. Lesson 1.5 gives us an overview of many of Da Vinci's accomplishments. Now let's take a look at this introductory paragraph. It's very interesting. According to legend, Leonardo's father asked his teenage son to paint a wooden shield. The boy decided to paint a face on a shield, but not of a human face. So instead of a human face, he collected an assortment of dead animals, including maggots, bats, and lizards, to create the head of a monster belching smoke. When Leonardo's father saw the painting, he was so stunned by its realism that he knew his son would be a painter. He was right, but Leonardo would be so much more than just a painter. Leonardo was raised on his father's family estate. When he was an apprentice to artist Andrea del Verrocchio, he received training in painting and sculpture as well as technical and mechanical subjects. Leonardo worked in Florence until 1481. During that time, he did many pen and pencil drawings, including technical sketches of such objects as pumps, various other machines, and military weapons. Leonardo then moved to Milan, where he had a large workshop and hired many students and apprentices. During his 17 years in Milan, he painted 6 works, including the large wall painting, The Last Supper. Leonardo spent the last year of his life in France, where he spent most of his time working on his scientific studies. Now let's take a look at his finest hour. Perhaps with all his accomplishments, he is really known for his painting, the Mona Lisa. For some weird reasons, of course, besides the fact that it is really an excellent painting, he had other, in my opinion, greater works, but this is the work that he is really known for. Well, his worst moment was seeing his bitter rival Michelangelo giving the honor of decorating the Vatican, the palace of the Pope in Rome. It was, if you can still remember, the center of the great Roman Empire, and even to this day, it is the center of the Roman Catholic Church, where the Pope lives, the most influential person in the church. Trivia. He was left-handed. Well, that is not a big deal, of course, obviously, but he wrote backward, either because it was easier or to prevent the curious from reading his notebooks, those people who will plagiarize or copy his work. His writing had to be held up to a mirror to be read. What a genius. Working for Verrocchio as an apprentice, as a trainee, eventually Leonardo was given the honor of painting an angel in one of his teacher's paintings. It turned out to be the best part of the painting. Soon after, Leonardo left his teacher's studio to strike out on his own. So Leonardo went viral. Soon nobles, patrons, and popes wanted his service. He would produce several great works, including 2 of the most celebrated paintings, the Mona Lisa and The Last Supper. Now let's take a look at the famed painting of Leonardo da Vinci, the Mona Lisa. So many mysteries surround this. For one thing, no one really knows the subject's identity, although she is believed to be Lisa Gerardini, the wife of a merchant. Well, Mona means madame. But it was her mysterious smile that has captured people's imaginations for centuries. What is she smiling about? What's going on behind those eyes? Leonardo never gave the painting to whoever commissioned it. Instead, he kept it with him all his life. Maybe there's a love story behind this. Today, if you want to see this painting, it is hanging at the Louvre, a museum in Paris, or in English, Louvre in Paris. There you go. If you really want to see this painting, save some money and go to Paris, France, or Paris, so that you can see this painting in that famed museum, the Louvre de Paris. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but yeah, it is what it is. Now, let's talk about him as the ultimate Renaissance man. What is the meaning of this? The world knows Leonardo as primarily a painter, but actually he only painted about 17. Well, they are still discovering new paintings and they are saying these are like hidden works of Leonardo da Vinci. Well, compared to other Renaissance painters, these are relatively few. The failure was probably due to his interest with so many other things, including engineering, anatomy, and the study of human body. Da Vinci dissected or cut up the bodies of dead people and used what he learned to make a remarkable, accurate anatomical sketches of the human body. He is also an engineer/inventor. He designed machines including early forms of some sort of helicopters and submarines. So he is really an interesting person and, well, in that definition, a genius ahead of his time. He studied whatever interested him and recorded his observations and sketches in a collection of notebooks. These works were by themselves were ours because they are so beautiful. And a lot of these works were not widely known until more than 100 years after his death, unfortunately. Many people had considered Da Vinci to be solely an artist and so were amazed at the breadth of his knowledge. In fact, with all his talents, Leonardo embodied a well-rounded ideal of Renaissance and humanist thinking. Bottom line, he could do it all. He was a painter, an architect, an inventor, an engineer, and a scientist. All these qualities and many more made Leonardo the ultimate Renaissance man. Now let's take a look at this animated presentation for an additional information what makes Leonardo da Vinci a true Renaissance man.
Leonardo da Vinci, the true Renaissance man. No doubt you'd recognize the Mona Lisa, and you've probably seen a model of one of his countless inventions. These are all the work of Leonardo da Vinci. The celebrated painter and inventor was born in 1452 in Vinci, Italy, and those were only two of his many talents. He was also a sculptor, architect, philosopher, engineer, and scientist. His portrait, the Mona Lisa, is the best-known painting in the world. He painted it between 1503 and 1506, and the identity of the woman behind that mysterious smile is still disputed today. Almost as famous is his mural, The Last Supper, which portrays Jesus with his disciples. Leonardo experimented with a new type of paint for the mural, which is why it's unfortunately very faded. Typical for the Renaissance, his subjects were mostly religious. Yet his work demonstrates that his true fascination was with nature, why clouds form, how plants grow, or how the human body is put together. Anatomy is also the focus of the Vitruvian Man, a human being standing in the center of a circle and a square. Leonardo's groundbreaking drawing depicts the ideal human body measurements and proportions. Today, that drawing is featured on Italy's €1 coin. One of Leonardo's greatest dreams was to fly. By observing the movements of birds, he invented the very first flying machines. A parachute was later assembled by scientists in the year 2000 using his original design, and it worked. The sky wasn't the limit for Leonardo, who was fascinated with water too. He studied the flowing motions of the waves and applied his discoveries to technological innovations, including diving gear, irrigation systems, and the very first water meter. As an engineer, Leonardo was centuries ahead of his time. As early as 500 years ago, he designed the first precursors of the tank and the automobile, and even a solar reflector. He spent his final years in France. By his death in 1519, he had developed a legendary reputation as a uomo universale, or jack of all trades. To this very day, Leonardo da Vinci is widely considered to be one of the most extraordinary people of all time.
Now, there you have it. Let's take a look at the review and assess questions for number 1, reading check. Why is Leonardo da Vinci considered a true Renaissance man? I provided you with a ton of information why. Number 2, interpret visuals. The Mona Lisa is said to represent the idea of happiness. What details in the painting do you think make Mona Lisa appear happy? Number 3, make inferences. Why do you think Leonardo decided to keep the Mona Lisa for himself? Ooh la la, I wonder why. All right, ladies and gents, go ahead, go back to our Google Classroom and open the Review and Assess assignment, Chapter 12, Section 1, the Italian Renaissance, and that is Lesson 5. And go ahead, fill up all the basic information, last name, first name, class period, date, and of course, the key vocabs. These are the 2 artworks of Leonardo da Vinci, the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper. And of course, don't forget to write the title of this lesson. That's the easiest part. And definitely, you need to answer the questions, the review and assess questions correctly. And if you want to get full credit, make sure that you are writing in complete sentences. Don't give Mr. Ramos a reason to give you anything less than full credit. Go ahead, answer the questions, and that is our lesson for today. Lesson 1.5, Biography of Leonardo da Vinci, pages 332 to 333.